you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And money sounds great, but at the end of the day, you have to really enjoy what you're doing.
Welcome to the 7 Eagle Group podcast, your home for inspiring stories, valuable tips, and great advice from hard-charging veterans so you can lead a more rewarding and lucrative post-military career.
All right. Hey, everyone. It's Jordy from 7 Eagle Group. One of our missions here at 7 Eagle is to connect veterans with what I call kick-ass careers. And what better kick-ass career than working in sports? And today I have just an incredible guy who spent a long career and he's got tons of experience and lots of accomplishments working in TV and as a sales executive and business developer for big networks like Fox, Turner. Spent some time working with the new basketball league called the Big Three, which is 3v3. It just started a few years ago, and just a really good dude. He's out of New Jersey. Also helps out the Nancy Lieberman Charities, which does some incredible work for the military community. Brad Jacobs in the house.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jody.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you taking some time today to chat with us and share some of your experiences and your story. So let's start out. I know you grew up here on the East Coast, went to University of Hartford, and then what sort of propelled you down your career path?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. My career path could have been a lot easier. I had an uncle who was big in the publishing business. So he worked for a company called Condé Nast for 50 years. And I'm sure you know Condé Nast is GQ, Vogue, Glamour, Self, all those magazines. And I could have just used him as a connection, but I was that kind of guy that I just wanted to do it on my own. I didn't want to be that guy who was handed something and say, here, you go do it.
Yeah.
So I started my career selling copiers for Canon in New York City. And back in the day, you had a zip code and you had to be out of the office between 10 and 4. And you had to walk into a building cold and go up to the receptionist and ask for the office manager and try and speak to them there. And 99% of the time you didn't speak to the person. But you had to go back to the office and you had to call them. And that's what I did. You go back and call them. And after a year of doing that, made good money, because when you landed a good deal, it was very fruitful for your wallet. But then I realized, I'm like, okay, I don't want to sell copiers. It was almost kind of like degrading, and there's a reason why I'm saying that, because you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And money sounds great, but at the end of the day, you have to really enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
So then I decided, you know what, let me use my uncle. So I used my uncle. He connected me to some people. I started on the ad agency side. So I had a client and I would recommend to the client how they should spend their advertising money. And
But wait, let me just interrupt for a sec, because that first experience selling the copiers, like you said, it was probably brutal getting door slams on you all the time. But that toughened you up, right? It had to give you some grit and some like, I can do anything, man. I've been through hell here, right?
Yes, but a lot of that you're born with.
Yeah.
You're born, I have 2 kids. One, you can give a book and he can read it and tell you everything about it. The other one would be like, okay, what's a book? But he could find his way home from Nebraska with 5 cents in his pocket.
Yeah.
In a day. It's,
Right.
It toughens you up, but again, the one thing I want to stress is it comes back to passion.
Yeah.
When you are passionate about something, you could sell it to anyone.
Right. So important.
And I know that now. It took me a long time to get to that point, because I have a family and I had kids and I wanted to make money and I wanted to have the best for my family over the years at CNN and Fox. And, that career was great. I made a lot of money. I never really took for the political internal game. There's a lot of politics at companies like that. And it kind of stifled me a little bit, because I just wasn't into playing politics.
Yeah.
I was that kind of guy who I'm going to tell you like it is, and I'm going to do my job is to bring in money. My
Right.
job is not to kiss your ass because you're above me.
Right.
My goal is to bring in money, and that's what I was
Yeah.
trying to do.
Yeah.
Uh,
So what happened with you were talking about your uncle that next?
oh yeah, so I started out in the ad agency side, but I knew I wanted to always be in sales because I knew I like talking to people, I like being with
Yeah.
people, and I made my way into the sales side. Working at CNN, I was selling a CNN International, so selling to people in the US that wanted to buy media overseas, and everybody knows what CNN is. It was great. We were one of the few companies that did what we did.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic brand. It was a lot of cold calling, a lot of hunting, and that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of after 12 years of doing that, I realized, you know what, I want to get into the domestic world. So that's when I went over to Fox. And at Fox, a lot of people don't know this, but National Geographic Channel at the time was owned by Fox.
Hmm.
So I worked for National Geographic Channel selling, and being that we're talking to a lot of vets, we did a lot of fantastic documentaries about Afghanistan and
Yeah.
war. And it was just, I mean, it was incredible. And that was really, really fun and passionate to sell.
Yeah.
It was hard to sell because it was National Geographic Channel and not everybody watched it. But that's when I started to feel passion. I was like, okay, we're doing good for this world.
Yeah.
Every ad dollar that we would bring in, 10% of that goes to the Society of National Geographic to help the world,
Hmm.
whether it's global sustainability or whatever it kind of is.
Yeah.
So that was passionate to me. But then what happened at Fox over the years, they merged the business. So there was National Geographic, there was FX, there was Fox Broadcasting, that all merged to one. So then I was selling all of it. And most of my time was on Fox because
Yeah.
it's such a behemoth and there's no selling. It's taking orders, and that's not fun. It's
Yeah.
your answer. Hey, I got $2 million. Where I want to put it in Law and Order, whatever the hell it is. And I'm like, that's not fun.
Yeah.
So then I made the jump to the sports world and went to Fox Sports. And it was fun. I am not a sports guy where I know stats and know every player, and I'm an athlete. I played as baseball and soccer all my life, and
Yeah.
I love playing sports, but I'm not the guy that is watching every stat, and because they're not watching me, they don't know anything about me. Why would I watch that? I mean, I enjoy it, believe me, but
Yeah.
so I found myself in this world where all these people I talked to knew everything about sports. I'm like, dude, I'm not the guy for that. I just want to sell you spots or
Yeah.
sponsorships or whatever. But you didn't need to sell. It was Fox Sports.
Right.
I have Super Bowl. I have,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So then Disney bought Fox and or part of Fox, the cable properties, and 75% of us were let go. So that's when I, was out on the street. I had a fantastic severance. I
Yeah.
played a lot of golf, and I got introduced to Ice Cube and worked for him for 3.5 years on the big three. And that was complete hunting, cold calling,
And
using the name Ice Cube to get meetings, doing really
big
cool stuff.
difference. What a turn from going from Fox and CNN. Now it's like, wait, what? What's 3 on 3? What is this?
Yeah, exactly. The funny thing is, when I was at Fox, the big three used to air on Fox. So I used to sell it. So I was the guy that would get yelled at for trying to sell the big three because my boss would be like, dude, you can't spend your time selling the big three. You got to sell NASCAR. You got to sell MLB. Those
Yeah.
are the things that make the company money.
Yeah.
But I wanted to sell the big three because it was so hard to sell. And I like to, if it's hard, I want to do it.
Yeah.
So it was ironic that I ended up there, and it was just me and Cube and the other owner, Jeff, but it was fantastic. I the people involved with the big three are fantastic.
Yeah.
You have Cube, you have LL Cool J, you have Clyde Drexler, Dr. J, Nancy Lieberman, um, George Gerwin. I mean,
Wow.
Michael Cooper. The names go all Hall of Famers, and I got
Yeah.
really, really close with Clyde Drexler, who happens to be like,
Yeah.
I'll show this to you while
Clyde, he
we're on
was
the
he
phone.
was so good.
So when I left the big three, I get a phone call,
There it
and
is. That's pretty
there's my
cool. You got
voice.
to save that one.
Oh, it's a voicemail from Clyde saying, "Dude, you did so much for the league. I thank you." When I left the company, and he's like, "I don't know
Yeah.
why why this is not working." And
Yeah.
so anyway, so to make a long story short, Nancy Lieberman was a coach of the big three. We hit it off.
Yeah.
Um, and she asked me to start working for charities and start selling,
Nice.
trying to get sponsorships. It's very hard to do.
Yeah.
It's interesting to do it. The one thing I will say that's great about it is when I cold call CEOs, which I've never really done before in my career,
Yeah.
they're actually responding to me.
Oh, that's cool.
Whether or not it's because we're a charity
Yeah.
or because people think that they're so busy, which they are, but they don't get as many emails as you think because
Yeah.
people are
People are
scared to
scared.
email them.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not calling that guy. He's too.
Right. So that was fun. So
Yeah.
that's where I learned a little something about myself. So
Yeah.
the one thing I want to touch on is that the older you get and the more experience you get, the more confidence you get.
Yeah.
And the more, you know what, like I cold call all day long. And after four emails, you know what my response is now? Good talk. Let me know if you ever want to speak again because they're not responding.
Good job.
Good talk. Where 15 years ago, I wouldn't do that. Now
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just like, dude, I am a huge believer in whatever you do, get back to people. I don't
Yeah.
care if it's in a week.
Yeah. Show
I
them
mean,
that respect.
you can attest to this. How many do I always get back to you?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always texting. I'll say, hey, I can't
Right.
do this.
Yeah.
I am a huge believer in what goes around
To
comes
show
around.
people that respect. Yeah. It takes
Show
2
the
seconds.
respect.
Absolutely.
Everyone's on their phones.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Brad, because you touched on it earlier about how important it is to have that passion, that excitement, that energy to get fired up for what you're doing and how your career took off once you found that and you had that energy. How important is that, do you feel, for veterans? You know, they're leaving service, they're making this big career pivot now. How is it important to find, and how do you find that career path that's gonna get you going, you know?
Yep. Uh, there's a few ways to do it. One, talk to as many people as you can. Go on to LinkedIn and figure out, let's just I'll give my son, for example. We'll use him. He's not a veteran, but we'll use his situation. He was a collegiate baseball player. After his first year of playing baseball at college, he decided he hated playing. It just took up his whole life. But he's not a student. And my wife is like, well, you got to get an education. I'm like, babe, not everybody needs an education in college.
Right.
Why doesn't he just go to community college, take some classes here, and let him do things that he loves to do? So the kid's 20 years old. He lives down at college where he went. He's taking community classes. He is now the assistant coach to the baseball team he played on. He's the second youngest NCAA coach in all of America. He tells me this all the time. He's an assistant coach. He coaches travel baseball. He works with kids. He loves doing it. And I said to him, and everyone's so stuck on, you got to
Yeah.
make money. You got to do this. What do you love to do?
Right.
And he loves to do that. And I said, Alex, I said, you should become a gym teacher.
Yeah.
I said, do you know what a pension is? He's like, no. I'm like, I told him what a pension is. He's like, the greatest joke in the world is a gym teacher sits down with his students and asks all his students and says, so who's the smartest guy? Who's the smartest teacher in the school? And all the students go, the math teacher. He's like, no, it's me. I'm running around kicking ball. I'm making the same money as they are. I'm the smartest guy. And then,
Yeah.
by the way, I coach baseball on the side. I do this,
Yeah.
and I'm loving what I'm doing. So you have to figure out what you love to do. And for example, when I left Fox, those are things I had to do. I love golf, and I tried to figure out a way to have a career in golf.
Hmm.
And it's hard, like,
Yeah.
to become a sales rep.
Yeah.
That's really, I want to be a golf instructor. I could teach anyone how to play golf. And that's hard. The process to do that is, so what do? All my friends know, and all my friends' kids know, listen, you want to go to the range with me? I'll take you to the range with me. And you don't have to pay me. I take my best
Yeah.
friend's son to the range all the time. And I feel rewarded about it because I'm
Sure.
helping him,
Yeah.
and I love it. So,
That's awesome. Talk about now you went down this revenue generating path in your career, which I love, and because I feel it could be a great way if you have confidence and you're good in and you believe in yourself to open up doors for you at like some of the biggest companies in the world, where if you were more of a support role, I think those would be harder to come by, no?
well, nowadays, a lot of things are becoming technology. So my role that I did 5 years ago for my whole career is not going to be around in 5 years from
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It's going to be a guy behind a computer, or a girl, obviously, and they're going to say, I want to buy Fox NFL Super Bowl. And they push the button, and it goes to this bidding process,
Yeah.
talking to the net, and it just doesn't exist. But there are things that, I think customer service, in my opinion, is the number one
Hmm.
part of a business. No
Yeah.
matter how good of a salesperson you are, you could sell them a product and then you close the deal. But if you're not fulfilling that deal the way the client likes,
Yeah.
you'll never get them again. Which leads me to another point of what has made me, I think, successful, maybe not financially, but personally, is when I closed a deal, any client I dealt with, I would always get back to them within a few minutes, no
Hmm.
matter the phone
Yeah.
call or the email. And the response I always used to get back on an email was, thanks for getting back to me so quickly. And I would say, what do you mean? I said, that's my job.
Yeah.
And that just goes a long way.
It's like doing the things we learned in kindergarten to do. Like, you know what I mean? It's like everything we
Like
learned.
common sense.
Oh my God. But nobody does it. That's why it stands out for you. That's why they
Yep.
go, wow, Brad, was that guy some sales,
I have a great story. This is a fun story. So when I was at CNN, my boss said to me, if you get this meeting, you can go to the Bahamas. So I kept calling the person. No one, emailing, nothing. And I sat down and I said, all right, I'm going to fax them. Who faxes? I faxed the person an introductory note. I hand wrote it. I said, I'd love to get a meeting with you, talk about CNN, and I got a call. And he said, I had to call you because I have not gotten a fax in years. And this is the most creative way I've received a cold call. I'll give you a meeting.
And now you got to invite me to Bahamas with you.
And I got to go to the Bahamas. Exactly. It was great. So you
That's
just got to
awesome.
think differently.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. I love it. Brad, I can't thank you enough for sharing some of this stuff with our vets. Would it be all right if anyone who does want to go in sales route, just if they reach out to you on LinkedIn and
Absolutely.
ask questions, and because I know that's super helpful to these guys to have mentors and people they
Yep.
can look up to. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. This was some
No.
really good advice and great content.
Great. Thanks for having me.